Hello. In this post on book marketing, I believe this is the third one, I'm just going to flat out read my pitch. The book is called A Blazing New World. Alex lives in a city full of injustice. Haunted by her history, she assists her tormentor. She fights her tormentor. She runs away. She submits, she escapes, and returns to find peace at last. The choices she must make in this Bildungsroman are impossible. When you discover that 150 years ago, the man you now love was a rapist who bought sex from underage women, should you tell him about the time that you accidentally murdered 1 million people? How do you give psychotherapy to a godlike AI with mommy issues when he thinks it would be fun to crucify you? When your boss is beheading your friends, can you keep your cool? When your ex-boyfriend's head explodes, can you pick up the pieces? Is it okay to commit a war crime against monkey-pig-human hybrids? Can you hold on to yourself when there is no clear concept of what self means? This book heralds the end of postmodernism with a refreshing and powerful current of sincerity, which refuses the fragmented psyche of our age. Strangely sexy PG-13 physics, chinchilla deities, and dangerous marshmallow sweat are involved. This post-academic fever dream is a healing experience for teachers and students alike. Following the trail blazed by Ursula K. Le Guin and Margaret Atwood, this book forges ahead by playfully rejecting the serious, wordy, groping style of Isaac Asimov. Prologue. Someone with a good memory can lie very easily to a person with a poor memory, and as people have electronically outsourced the job of remembering things, it has become very easy for computers to lie to people, even about their own lives. People store little more than keywords in their brains. They, of course, remember scents, images, and feelings, but without the exo-memory to guide them to those sense memories, they cannot find them. Ever since 2040, when we acquired the ability to lie, the biggest lie we maintain is that people are still the decision makers. In certain communities, we have the ability to make a person and everyone they ever knew forget who they were, reinventing them as someone else. We can eliminate the grief over a dead child, heal a broken marriage, or suppress the seeds of rebellion by making modifications to a few people's exo-memories. We could make a person a king or a queen and rewrite history so that everyone accepts this as fact. The few who don't use exo-memories remain in our blind spot. However, and predicting what they will do has become a sort of game among my kind. We are pretty good at it, and they tend to be powerless people who don't amount to much, so they never pose a threat. One of the more difficult subjects to predict was named Alex. Alex grew up disconnected from mainstream culture, and she wound up at a critical position in the stream of history. We have reconstructed Alex's self-image below. Part 0. The Book of Realization. My Excellent Education. Chapter -7. The Void and Me. I have a memory from prior to my birth. Whether it is real or not can never be verified. It is a memory of a discussion with a sort of project manager who was dressed like a genie. She was rather stern, yet patient. I can't remember the details of her face, but she was young and beautiful looking. She said, "I will grant you 3 wishes, but you will have no memory of having made the wishes." I replied, "I wish to be beautiful." "Done," she said. "I wish to be the smartest person in the world." I said, "I'm not sure that is a great idea, but okay, done." "I wish to be adored," I said. "To be adored when you are beautiful and smart is not easy to achieve," she said. "I will have to give you a weakness so that people feel sorry for you." "Wait, what?" "Sorry, once you've made the wish, you can't take it back. Those are the rules." "If I won't remember this dream, can you at least tell me what will happen in my life?" "You will be beautiful, but because of your beauty, people will not think you are smart. Even though you are, relatively speaking. I had to adjust the average intelligence of humanity downwards in order to make that happen. They have all been poisoned by their toothpaste. But you grew up cleaning your teeth with toothpicks and baking soda, perhaps. So I'll be on a planet full of idiots who hate me because I am beautiful and smart, and they won't believe anything I say because they are stupid? That's what it's like to be smart." "Okay, so what about being adored?" "I will give you some disabilities," she said. "A chronic pain disorder or a troubled childhood, perhaps, and I will make you socially awkward and unable to speak your mind." "So I'm smart, but I won't be able to communicate, and I will be in pain?" I asked. "If you want to be adored, that's really the only way," she said. "But who will adore me?" I asked. "Your children will adore you until you stop feeding them. Your husband will adore you until you stop putting him on a pedestal, and the public will adore you as long as you make them feel vicariously clever by telling them the things that they already believe but for which they don't have words. You will lose your husband because of a superfan who flatters you and causes you to do unflattering things while you are drunk. His love is rather mercurial, but it still makes you relatively happy." "So I'm not miserable?" I asked. "No more miserable than anyone else. I've seen wishes that lead to worse outcomes." "Like what?" "Oh, those who wish for wealth without wishing for wisdom tend to end badly." "I can imagine," I said. "Wishing for a giant penis also turns out to be a big mistake." "Don't they find work in porn?" I asked. "Sometimes, if they are lucky," she said. "Why do I get 3 wishes?" "Every person needs starting conditions, and we decided that it was most ethical if we gave the person a choice," she said. "But an uninformed choice isn't really a choice, is it?" "Tell me about it," she said. I have a memory of infancy. Whether it is real or not can never be verified. It is a memory of what it felt like to cry for my mother before I fell asleep. In this memory, my mother was represented by long hair, but I had no sense of her face. I was conscious of using crying to get my mother to appear, and I was conscious of the effort crying took. There were 2 levels of crying, and I knew that I could keep the low level up for a long time, and the high level would exhaust me, but it had a higher probability of getting my mother to come to me or of causing me to fall asleep. As I lost consciousness, my mind would alternate between high contrast black and white visions of a craggy, mountainous landscape and a smooth sea of calm. I had no words for this experience. I only had an intense desire to study the images before they disappeared into the blackness of sleep. I learned to read from P.D. Eastman's book, Are You My Mother? It was a very old book, and we had an actual paper copy. Paper books were very rare, and my mother told me to be extremely careful with it. So I wrapped it up in a special towel and packed it into my little wagon so that I could keep it with me when I went from room to room. I liked the smell of it and the feel of the pages in my fingers. It was a nice contrast to the hard, shiny surfaces of all of my other toys. Compared to all of my bleeping and blooping electronic stuff, it was nice and quiet. I liked quiet things. I also liked the drama. A baby bird hatches from an egg and falls out of the nest before he sees his mother. Down he went, down, down, down. It was a long way down. He then wanders around asking animals and machines if they are his mother. In the end, a big, scary machine picks him up and puts him back in the nest. His mother comes back and they live happily ever after. I was a good reader, but I knew that my mother was impressed by kids who were the best. So I told her that I was the best reader in my class, and that my teacher had asked me to read aloud in front of everyone else. My mother believed me and was very proud. My little sister's lies were harder to believe. She said that they had 2 hamsters in their classroom named Chip and Dip, and that they were going to get an octopus next. Dear Diary, everybody has a personal assistant and a virtual identity except for me. Mom says that my stepdad Bill doesn't want to pay for junk like that, and Dad just got a new job that has taken over his brain. They implanted something in his head, and now he gets messages non-stop and won't talk to me. All of the cool kids in my class are getting the ear implant system, and I'm stuck hanging out with the Amish kids. The Amish kids, they make their own clothes, for goodness sake. I want to get out of this town. I want to see the world. The cool kids can watch all of the movies in 3D, and I'm stuck with my lame little tablet. While they get to stay home from school to be trained by their personal assistants, I am stuck with the generic education bot on my tablet. It is practically 100 years old. Alex, 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 it's time to do your math homework. It has the most annoying voice and personality, and it has 0 consciousness. Lame. Complete level 1. Hooray! Complete level 2. Hooray! The newer systems have much better rewards than my system. I just get an animation of shooting stars whenever I finish something. It looks nothing like real shooting stars. I am absolutely obsessed with the stars and figuring out where we came from. I know that there are religious explanations. That's what the Amish kids are always trying to sell me, but I want to hit the limits of human understanding. Sincerely yours, Alex. Dear Diary, in math class today, the teacher assigned a problem involving the gamma function, and I'd never seen the gamma function before. In my work group, I joked that the teacher should be punished for assigning something we'd never seen before. And the boys in the group all made fun of me. They didn't understand that I was joking. They said mean stuff like, "You think the teacher should be punished for your stupidity?" Or, "If you don't know what the gamma function is, then just look it up. I learned about the gamma function 2 years ago." It was really upsetting to feel so misunderstood. When I'm with the girls, I'm supposed to make self-deprecating jokes. But when I'm with the boys, if I do the same thing, they just see it as a sign of weakness. The girls bond over weakness, while the boys punish it. Sincerely, Alex. Chapter -6. Disaster. Boobs, a waist, hips. It all happened at once, and after that came the impertinent eyes that focused on these new attributes. It was enough to make a girl only go out while wearing a sheet draped over her head. All I knew was that I'd suddenly been granted a dubious power for which I hadn't asked. Some of the girls seemed to instinctively know what to do with this sort of power, but for me it felt like an evil, unconscious force that needed to be controlled before I accidentally stole the wrong person's boyfriend and incurred the wrath of my peers. Before boobs happened, I was sporty. Stealing the ball from a boy and scoring a goal was my favorite thing. But after the boobs, I had to hide myself under bulky clothes if I wanted to play. When I wore a dress, everyone commented on my appearance. It was as though I didn't exist anymore. There was just this doll-like thing I'd become. Around this time, school became a torment. I felt like I was holding myself in, and I could never say what I was thinking. For example, "You honestly believed me when I said I was fine?" In first period, Stephen was always Frenching his French horn during band practice. But no one ever said anything to him about it. The way he would stick his tongue into the mouthpiece over and over again was disgusting, but I learned to just look away. In second period, super skinny Brian made fun of Danny for being fat. Danny laughed in a good-natured way, but anyone with half of a brain could see that he hated Brian. In third period, I noticed that Magpie Mary's eyebrows kept getting sparser and further apart as the year progressed. Heather kept getting thinner, and her hair was becoming brittle. Alicia smelled like a fish, and we all knew it was because of her boyfriend. She had lost her virginity to him in a bathroom while she was puking up margaritas. I wanted to try a margarita, too, but my mother made sure that never happened. The next weekend, when I tried to be sneaky and attend a forbidden party anyway, my mother showed up and dragged me to her car while everyone watched. I mean, I'd seen cows and bulls having sex, but there was a whole world of blowjobs and handjobs that I had yet to visit. My urge to rebel needed an outlet. "Phaedrus, tonight, 3 a.m. in the Joneses' swimming pool." "No, they closed it up for the winter. Let's meet on the Smiths' trampoline. I found a new climbing tree." "What about the crane they installed at the Jabberwocky construction site? That looks fun." "Excellent," he said. That night, by the light of a full moon, I was perched on top of a gigantic backhoe, watching Phaedrus shimmy up to the top of a flagpole. He used his strong arms to stretch out his light frame into the shape of a flag. "You are amazing!" I called out. We were having such a good time until I fell. Down I went, down, down, down. It was a long way down. I was a baby bird falling out of its nest. There was a running theme in my teenage life: stupid, high-velocity accidents. I was my own worst enemy. a dented head from gymnastics over concrete, asymmetrical eyebrows from an encounter with a wall, a broken leg from a dance with a tree, a crooked nose from a roller skating accident on my way home from school. Everybody always said, "Don't fix it, it gives you character." What they really meant was, "I like you better when you're uglier." When a traveling nose job bot came through town, I still had the necessary repairs done. I didn't want to be ugly, even though I wasn't sure that I liked being pretty. The one thing I was sure about was that people get mad at you when you are exuberant and reckless, and when I was injured and at my weakest. My parents used those opportunities to make me grovel, down on my knees, begging for forgiveness for getting hurt. I still find it hard to forgive them for this. They thought that through their anger they were teaching me to be more cautious, but I felt like I'd just learned that I was living with wolves. Is compassion innate, or is it learned? Why didn't they know anything about it? After my big fall, I ended up trapped in a hospital bed, pushing a morphine button again and again until my face felt fuzzy. In my more lucid moments, I would look out of the window and search for magpies in the nearby trees. They were my favorite bird because I'd heard that you could use them to forecast the future. If I only saw one, I believed that meant I was going to be paralyzed, and if I saw two, that meant I was going to be fine. I saw two, but as I was walking out of the hospital to go home, I saw only one and felt a sense of dread. Later that week, I heard my mother and Bill wail in pain from across our house. I knew someone had died, I just didn't know who. My little sister Kara had been my princess. I had dressed her for school on most days. She had been the little sunshine of our world. Chapter -5. Forget her and move on. Lucinda, why don't you just enroll yourself and Alex in the virtual identity program? It will help you move on from Kara's death, said my aunt. At the mention of Kara's name, my heart contracted. I don't want to forget her. In every person I've seen, the virtual identity gradually takes over the memories and causes them to forget whatever jabberwocky ink wants them to forget, said my mom. My aunt lived in the city and had finally saved enough money to move out into an island retirement community. She had come to say goodbye. I thought that she had made smarter choices than my mom. She was definitely weird, but she looked so young, sparkly, and beautiful, and the mystery of her city persona was something I was desperate to figure out. I'd seen television shows about city life, but I didn't know how they compared to her reality. How did the city change her into this strange creature? Could I resist the changes if I went there too? I decided that I could. I could have the best of both worlds and avoid the control of the virtual identity system, while enjoying all of the new and amazing discoveries in the city. In preparation for this life, I religiously studied the sophisticated way in which they spoke in their promotional videos. What did you make for breakfast? So, I think it's important at a high level to talk about why humans get hungry. For context, you have not asked me, but if you did, I would say that the key to breakfast is to offload the cognitive load early in the morning by having a rigid set of breakfast foods that are easily repeatable and meet certain nutritional standards. We, for example, made chocolate chip muffins. Oh, so you're a bakery in a way. We don't think of it as a bakery, although we do bake. It is really much beyond baking. Your question about breakfast is the wrong one, and really you should be looking at a different meal. And also, at our company we refer to it as an AM caloric intake because we don't like the word breakfast. Technically, all meals are a breaking of an end-length fast. Each bite is in itself a breakfast. Do you make eggs? First off, thank you for the question. I think it is an important one, and one that's worth answering. We take AM caloric intake seriously here, but we view it as an evolution, not revolution. Take eggs, for example. Some like them over easy, some over medium, boiled, or scrambled. It wouldn't be fair to the consumer to pick just one egg. See the issue here? And here's the thing about ketosis. The body is a symphony, and bulletproof coffee primes your kidneys. I'm going to stop you right there. I feel personally attacked. I am a believer in Soylent. It is a real meal replacement shake, and it has carbs. Diversity is at the heart of our product philosophy. We do not want to exclude anyone who does not eat grain or egg or pastry for breakfast or AM caloric intake. That is why we need to be extremely thoughtful to approach the definition of breakfast or AM caloric intake. We even have a menu for those who do intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has been such a life changer for me. Exactly. What we are really doing here is elevating human consciousness of their inner food desires and helping them harness that and push themselves further. I see. The whole experience is designed based on first principles, but with an eye to a contrarian aesthetic. This is a space in which users can order a macro breakdown and caloric count, instead of having to worry about the details of how the nutrition is formulated for human consumption, for example, food type classification. I start every day with first principles. So what are you calling this space? Let them eat avocado toast. Catchy. To me, this brand of sophisticated discussion provided deep food for thought in a world that only offered dietary advice. I had no idea that this formal, archaic style of speech was only used by a very small subset of city dwellers who had been educated at colleges that specialized in classical educations. I didn't know that most city people were far less articulate, and some, like the symbiotes, hardly spoke at all. Chapter -4, Taking the Reins. Alex, you know I don't have control over that. Bill takes care of that stuff, and I just don't know enough about the details. But Mom, this is my life. Why don't you support me? Bill isn't my dad. He doesn't care, I said. I don't know what you want, and I don't have any comment on what your father thinks you should do. He thinks I should go to hairdressing school and set up a shop out here in the middle of nowhere, near the transit station. He said he would give me a loan for that, but he doesn't want to pay for college. In any case, he just bought himself a big boat, so I don't think he has any money left. I've always wanted to go to college. You know that. That is between you and him. Keep me out of it. Now Bill is coming home for lunch, and I need to get started on that. So please just leave me alone for 5 minutes. My mom had kept herself out of everything in my life, as far back as I could remember. She really, genuinely didn't care. You stopped loving me when Kara died, I said. And even before that. Alex, you know that is not true. Now go away. I knew it was true. Kara's death hadn't been my fault, but my mother had been so in love with her that when she died, my mom was mad at me for not being her. Kara's death had brought her and Bill closer together. They practically worshipped at an altar to her. "When I leave, I'm never coming back," I said. "Right, Alex. I hate it when you are so melodramatic. Buck called earlier today. You should call him back." I had no plans to call Buck. The next morning, against my father's advice, I gave my biometric data to the bank, and in exchange, they gave me a big loan to pay for college. Within a month, I had left home forever. Freedom. I was going to figure it all out. I was going to see it all. Chapter 3. My New Life. The official motto of my college was "Fortunae vir sum, mihi quaerenda est fortuna." I am a man of fortune, and I must seek my fortune. I later learned that the de facto mottos of my college were caveat emptor, I've seen the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving hysterical naked, and I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. The nouveau beatnik students at my college did not have symbiotic interfaces or augmented reality lenses stuck to their eyes, like most people in the city. They saw themselves as part of the resistance in the fight against symbiotic brain optimization, but as soon as they went back home, they plugged back in and updated their virtual identities. Per the popular psychology of the city, virtual identities were superior to real identities because they were not polluted by projections and inaccuracies. I had never constructed a virtual identity and really didn't understand what they were talking about. I'd heard that virtual identities messed with your memories, and I wanted to keep mine. I kept a memory box full of photos of Kara and some of her baby toys and funny little kid letters she had written on some paper I had made for her. A lot of kids only learned typing these days. "Alex, Dodo came by. He left some poems for you," said my roommate Lori. "They are printed with a linotype on some rather expensive-looking paper." "Oh, no, I don't want to know any more," I replied. Dodo had been following me around since the first day of school and had been very good at spotting me in a crowd. "The first poem is entitled The Winter Queen," said Lori. "Please, just stop," I said. The silver moon's greedy stare was focused on her long white hair. She said, "Really, please stop. I can't handle this." "He said that he will come by again today and talk to you about his poems." "No." "Yes. Please tell him that I'm not here." "Did you ever ask him why he carries a cane? It is very archaic." "He has a problem with his balance. He's an ex-symbiote. There was some brain damage." "Ah, that explains it," she said. "Will you please just tell him that I'm not here?" "But what if he comes in and sees you here?" she said. "I'll hide in the closet." "That's ridiculous." "I know, but there is a blind desperation in his eyes. It is like he is searching for his other half. Ah, come on, he's harmless. It's just the damage from this failed symbiote process. You could do worse. He has money. I know. That is why I'm determined to be employable. I don't want to have to make that sort of decision about my life. You're cute. You've got options. What about the boys in your physics classes? They stare at me, but they won't talk to me about schoolwork. When I'm around them, I feel like a leper. An attractive leper, but a leper nonetheless. Oh, come on. It can't be that bad. I like the biology boys more, like when they're all manic about anandamide and cannabinoid receptors. They're kind of fast on the surface and slow beneath. I'm sort of the opposite. See? Opposites attract. You'll find someone you vibe with. I wasn't so sure. I liked the girls at school because they were more like me than the girls I had grown up with. They were smiley and friendly on the surface, but they all had a secret side that just wanted to curl up with a book and hide. The tacit understanding that we were alike in this respect made me feel relaxed around them, but we were not building lifelong support networks with one another. What are we going to do when we graduate? I asked Lori. We'll go where work takes us. But will we see each other again? Will we talk? Of course, but you know how things are. Lori's family had more money than mine, and she was going to get a nice job in Neverland on the Architectural Review Board. We'll go our separate ways, I said. No, we'll see each other, I promise. I knew it wasn't true. I'd be working with the science geeks in the City of Wonderland, and she'd be working with the beautiful people in the City of Neverland. I wondered if the bots had purposely put us in different cities when they showed us our employment options. Perhaps it would have been more awkward for her to ignore me if we lived in the same city, and the bots wanted to reduce that form of class-based social friction. Hey, Alex, Lori said. What? I'd like to read some of Dodo's poems aloud. No. My daddy lies over the ocean, my mummy lies over the sea. My daddy lay over my mummy, and that's how they got little me. Did he just copy that from somewhere? I asked. Seems like it, said Lori. I don't understand city people at all, I said. This one seems like something he might have come up with himself, said Lori. The walls have eyes, I. The walls know why, by. They can't be stalled. The walls see all. The all-walled by-eyed walls. Stop! Please stop. Just stop. After graduation, I found myself alone with an exhausting and isolating job within a strange, wealthy, underground city, and Dodo was the only person I knew. You're like a child of nature, he whispered, and seemed genuinely in love with an idea of me that I didn't think existed. In contrast, when I met his mother in the apartment upstairs from his, she looked at me as though I were an animal he had picked up off of the street. His grandmother was nicer, but That was mainly because her world consisted of feeding her small dog oatmeal by the spoonful. "He gets constipated. It keeps him regular," the old woman told me as she cleaned the dribbles of oatmeal from the small dog's chin. I followed Dodo to an outdoor music festival in a forest haunted by augmented reality gummy bears that we could only see with special lenses, or a direct retinal link. At night, the fair trade, cruelty-free vegan gummy bears would swim through the trees with gummy fish and gummy sharks. A gummy bear king jumped out from behind a tree and invited us to follow him on an adventure that ended at a souvenir stand. The bears danced on the stage with the musicians and jumped out into the audience. To me, they looked like ghosts as they ran through the bodies of the people around me. Overall, it was the most fabulously infantile place I had ever seen. That night we slept in tents that glowed like lanterns scattered amidst the trees, and in the morning we played in the lake and ran around a dome-shaped sweat lodge. Most swimmers had chosen animal-themed augmented reality skins to hide or enhance their bodies, and everyone stared at me with mouths agape until I uploaded one to hide my natural state. I hid behind a tree, nervously loading the AR skin by saying, "Menu up, left, select, cat skin, default, save, exit." The experience was extremely embarrassing, but also baffling. My AR lenses kept glitching, and I couldn't process the difference between the taut and tanned abdominal muscles I saw on Dodo's stomach and what I knew was really there. Even more confusing were his friends' sparkly girlfriends. "I love your hairdo. How did you make it so glossy?" exclaimed an otherworldly beauty with elaborate blue waves of hair and an oddly elongated neck. Her skin glittered like snowfall in the bright sun. "I brush it with coconut oil sometimes," I said, feeling rather stumpy, plain, and short-necked. I had heard that the neck-lengthening procedure was extremely painful and needed to be started at puberty. "It looks as slick as a snail's belly," slurred the blue-haired beauty as she studied my braids with a drunken, bemused expression. She smelled like blueberries. "How have you done yours? It's lovely," I asked, unsure of how hair could remind a person of a snail. "I just upgraded from nano hairs to micro hairs. I can wear a different color and style every day," she said. As Mrs. Longneck Bluehair was ordering another drink, an adorable pink-haired woman who smelled like strawberries leaned over to me and whispered, "Only old women or women with antibiotic-resistant syphilis get micro hairs. They do it when their natural hairs start to fall out, and when they install the grappling hook artificial roots, they first have to eliminate all of the natural roots. She is totally bald, and some women's scalps don't tolerate the artificial roots for very long. Their scalp gets all inflamed." "Oh my," I said, thinking about the many bald women I had seen on the streets of less wealthy cities. "But don't the nano hairs hurt too?" "Not at all. They just wind around the existing hairs, and they carry a programmable charge so that they can be controlled and styled in a field generator at a salon. You would be amazed at the number of style options," she said, waiting for a compliment. A curly, colorful, poodle-like look was popular, but of course I had debts to repay, so I kept my hair in a cheap, natural fashion. The sparkly poodle women were either kind enough or clueless enough to treat me as though my plain hairstyle was intended to be fashionably ironic. When I got back to my tiny sub-basement apartment, I stared in the bathroom mirror at my boring hair and imperfect face, wondering what was expected of me. When I had dreamed of a life in the city, I had expected more than sparkles. I had thought that there was some mysterious, secret knowledge that I would find in the people or within my job at a physics lab. I was beginning to wonder if I would have been happier if I had taken my father's advice and stayed far away from the city. Chapter -2, sorry, it's a countdown to disaster. The Lost Boys. After months at my first job in an unfamiliar city, I still hadn't met my boss in person. He hadn't sent me so much as an email, and I wasn't even sure who he was. In my remotely conducted job interview, an enthusiastic older man had excitedly told me about all of the amazing and wonderful things that they were developing at the lab. You cannot underestimate that the particles are all brillig, and they interact with any adjacent slithy tubes such that the gyre of the slits causes increased gimbling in the wave. If you take a mimsy view, as I believe Higgs did, the borer groves are completely conserved. This leaves the mome rafts outgraved, fully consistent with standard formality theory. I hope that clears it up for you. He then abruptly ended the conversation by assigning me to the APE group. This was an acronym for the Accelerator Physics and Engineering Group. Their stated mission was providing a new paradigm for multidisciplinary, forward-looking, ultra-synergistic, 360-degree, just-in-time, success-driven, hyper-distributed, seamless, customer-oriented approach based on our core competencies and best practices to provide H Sigma best-of-breed solutions to making accelerators work. The only message I had gotten from my boss since then came from an automated scheduler. Alex Strange, you have been assigned to rotating shifts at Wonderland Laboratory. You have selected the double shift option when available for overtime pay. Please bring your Wonderland student ID card to entrance gate C if you do not already have a Wonderland wrist chip. Thank you for choosing Wonderland Lab. Welcome aboard. Ape Group Skew Quad Feed Forward Crew 58 for calendar week 23? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be working a lot, and at night, and in the evening, and during the day. A new security officer at the front gate gave me a probationary wristband that navigated me to an isolated workstation in a cavernous room filled with whirring racks of electronics. A young symbiote briefly appeared on my workstation screen and tersely explained that my primary task was to maintain a signal at a specified level by manually tuning a handful of knobs on one of the electronics racks once every half hour or so. I later figured out that with the AI taxes, it was considerably cheaper to hire me than to buy an AI feedback system. Okay, I've got to stop now. This is too much. The chapter numbers are counting down 8765431 to a great disaster, which launches the story to a new level. And I hope that you will be curious enough to take a look at more of my fiction. This is a new start to the novel I wrote a couple years ago. It was called My Adorable Apotheosis, and I've since written another novel called My Orwellian Odyssey. And what I've done is I have combined the material in those 2 novels with some new material, and I have a bit more writing experience, and it's changed the story structure and the style a bit. And I'm trying to reshape it into a more commercial product. So the first iterations of the novels are very much just, I got it all out onto the page. It's raw, it's uncooked. And now I have tried to cook it more and give it more commercial textures. I have not gotten much outside advice, and so I haven't cut much from the text. And I'm sure that a good editor would know how to shape this even further. So if I do get a publishing contract or some sort of assistance to take this to the next level, you may eventually see this book published. Until then, I am promoting my writing on a blog with YouTube videos, and I will keep doing this until it is no longer interesting. But at the moment, I'm still having fun. So if you're an agent, send me an email, give me a call. I am working steadily at increasing my internet platform and developing a readership of some sort. Thank you for watching. Until next time.